Enough is enough. You want me to do this too now? Do you know I get tired? I work hard the whole week. Do you ever think that I'm human too? I'm not just a money machine for your comfort and luxuries, Rachel shouted, full of anger. Ethan looked at her, took a deep breath, and said gently, Rachel, why are you overreacting? Is this really something to shout about? I mean, he couldn't finish as Rachel threw her handbag on the sofa angrily. What do you mean by overreacting? She gave a bitter smile and said, Look at this man's nerve. He sits at home doing nothing and still has the audacity to say I'm overreacting. Wow. Fantastic. Ethan, still calm, said, Rachel, please. I just forgot. I meant to go to the bank and make the transfer, but I saw a recipe on YouTube and thought. Rachel cut him off, shouting again in disgust. You are useless, Ethan. I regret marrying you. All you care about are those stupid cooking videos. You disgust me. No responsibility at all. It was important to deposit the money, but no, you just keep watching those dumb YouTube videos. Ethan's patience was thinning. He controlled his voice and said, If you had added that client to your beneficiary list yesterday, you could have transferred the money online today. Rachel's eyes flared with anger. Oh, sure, blame me. It's always my fault. While you sit at home, doing nothing, pointing out my mistakes. Ethan looked at her sternly. Watch your words, Rachel. Rachel pointed at him and shouted, Don't you tell me how to talk. A man with no courage to support his family shouldn't lecture me. Look at you, what a mess. A highly educated man wasting away at home because you're too lazy to get up and help. Before Ethan could respond, Rachel stormed into her room. Ethan sat on the sofa, holding his head in his hands, trying to calm down. A few minutes later, he rubbed his face and stood up. He grabbed a bottle from the dining table and drank it all. He moved towards Lucy's room to check on her. She was sleeping peacefully. He carefully shut the door. He looked towards his own room, knowing he couldn't go in without starting another argument. He picked up his phone from the table, adjusted a cushion, and lay down. Just as he was about to open Facebook, the bedroom door opened. Rachel walked out and headed to the refrigerator. She took out a cold bottle of water. As she passed by, she glanced at Ethan and muttered, Good for nothing. Ethan heard her and closed his eyes for a moment. The door slammed shut again. He looked at the clock. It was 12:10 a.m. He took a deep breath and opened Facebook. You have memories from this day, the app said. He clicked the notification and saw a picture of him and Rachel. Rachel had uploaded it on September 20th, 2010. He smiled as memories came rushing back. The picture was taken at Rachel's college. He was on one knee holding her hand, the engagement ring shining on her finger. Rachel's face was full of happiness. He still remembered it. He had just finished his MBA in the United States and flown to London to propose to Rachel, who was in her 4th year of engineering. He remembered the quiet, shy Rachel when she first started at the University of London. He was in his 3rd year, and he and his friends teased her a little. As time went on, he fell in love with the kind, easygoing British girl. His last day at the university was hard for them both because he was going to the US for his MBA. Rachel supported him, knowing his career meant a lot to him. They promised to make long-distance work because Ethan had big dreams. The bedroom door opening startled him. He dropped his phone onto his chest and saw Rachel grab her handbag and head back to the room. She stopped and looked at him. Keep scrolling on your phone. That's all you're good for, she said. This house is your world. Enjoy your king's life. The door slammed again. Ethan stared at the closed door for a while, then looked back at the picture. He scrolled and found another photo, posted in 2014. This one made him smile even more. It was a picture of him and Rachel again, but this time Rachel was 7 months pregnant, taken at her baby shower. Ethan looked at the photo. He was in black jeans and a light pink t-shirt, and Rachel wore a royal blue dress. He remembered why he wore pink. He wanted a daughter, while Rachel wore blue, hoping for a son. The picture was taken by his best friend, Matt, who was also his roommate during his MBA. He stared at the photo for a long time before closing the app and putting his phone back on the table. He lay down, thinking about the baby shower. A month later, he was in a meeting when his phone rang. It was Rachel, and she sounded panicked, saying her water had broken. "Rachel? You're only 8 months pregnant." "What, how?" Ethan asked, worried. Rachel's voice was shaky. "Ethan, I'm not joking. My water broke. I'm having bad cramps. Please come quickly." Feeling her fear, Ethan grabbed his wallet and keys, excused himself, and rushed to his car. He drove as fast as he could while trying to calm Rachel down over the phone. He knew she was alone. Their neighbors were out of town. He called the hospital and Rachel's doctor, then told her parents. Less than 30 minutes later, he was home, picking up Rachel and putting her in the car. He drove her to the hospital, and within an hour, their daughter was born through a C-section. Ethan hadn't expected the wave of emotions, but Lucy's birth terrified them. She was placed on a ventilator with slim chances of survival. The 17 days Lucy spent in the hospital felt like forever, filled with pain and fear. Watching their little girl hooked up to machines broke their hearts. They cried every day, with only prayers to comfort them. They feared the worst, but still hoped for the best. After 15 long days, the doctor finally told them Lucy was stable. Ethan broke down in the doctor's office, overwhelmed with relief. He remembered going home and hugging Rachel for a long time, both finally letting go of their fears. He cupped her face, kissed her forehead, and said, "Tough times never last, but tough people do," quoting his favorite author, Robert Schuller. Ethan wiped Rachel's tears and then his own and smiled. "No more tears. Our daughter is coming home." "Ours," Rachel softly interrupted. Ethan smiled. "Yes, our daughter is coming home. I want to give her the best welcome ever. Our princess is coming home. My Lucy is coming home." Rachel looked at him curiously. "Lucy?" Ethan smiled. "Yes, that's what I named her." Rachel fell in love with the name and whispered, "Lucy." They hugged again, tears filling their eyes. They brought Lucy home with a huge celebration, spending a lot on her homecoming. 3 months passed, and Lucy was now the center of their world, the apple of their eyes. One morning, Rachel woke up and saw Ethan getting dressed. "Are you going somewhere, Ethan?" Rachel asked. Ethan turned and said, "Yes, Rachel. I'm going to the office." "But today is Sunday. You've worked the last 2 Sundays. You promised to take this one off," Rachel reminded him. Ethan adjusted his tie and said, "It's important, Rachel. The client is flying in from Ireland. If I get this deal, we can finally move into our dream house. This is my big chance." Rachel had seen the pictures of the house and knew how much Ethan wanted it. Ethan noticed her lost in thought. He snapped his fingers to bring her back. "Rachel, it's been 3 months. Lucy is healthy and fine. You should go back to work now." Rachel looked at their daughter, who was still sleeping beside her, and muttered, "What about Lucy?" Ethan smiled. "Don't worry about Lucy. I've made arrangements. She'll go to Little Star's Daycare just down the street. You'll be home by 6, and you can pick her up then." Ethan was pulled back to the present by a sudden noise. He quickly stood up, realizing it had come from Lucy's room. He rushed inside and felt relieved when he saw Lucy still sleeping soundly. Her toy car, the one she insisted on having in bed, had fallen to the floor, likely pushed out during her sleep. Ethan gently pulled the blanket over her, kissed her cheek, and softly brushed her forehead. He sat beside her and watched her sleep. His thoughts drifted to when Lucy was just 1 year and 3 months old. He was at work when his colleague, Marcus, knocked on his office door and walked in. "Ethan, keep tomorrow morning free. It's my son's first birthday, and my wife and I are going to an orphanage to donate food and clothing. You mentioned you wanted to do something similar for Lucy's birthday." Bring Rachel and Lucy too, Marcus suggested. Rachel's working, and Lucy will be at daycare. I can't manage her alone, but I'll come, Ethan replied. Great. See you tomorrow at 8 a.m. at Hope Orphanage on Greek Lane, Marcus said as he left the office. The next morning, Ethan joined Marcus, his wife Sarah, their 8-year-old daughter Isabel, and their 1-year-old son Liam at the orphanage. Ethan's mood darkened as memories of his early years in an orphanage resurfaced. He was adopted at 9 and didn't know when or where he was born. His only memory was of his adoptive parents, who tragically died in a car accident during his first year of college. He cherished the 12 years they gave him and the loving, disciplined upbringing that shaped him. After his engineering degree, he earned a scholarship for an MBA in the U.S. Ethan's thoughts were interrupted when he overheard Isabel talking to an 11-year-old boy. Marcus and Sarah were chatting with the nuns who cared for the orphans. Ethan moved closer to hear the children's conversation. Oh, really? Isabel asked. The boy replied, Yes, we celebrate all our birthdays together once a month for everyone born that month. It's on the first day of the month. Isabel responded, I have my birthday party on November 7th every year. I celebrate on my actual birthday. The boy said, Wow, you have a specific date. Isabel nodded. Ethan smiled sadly, remembering he didn't know his birth date and celebrated the day his parents adopted him. He snapped back to the conversation when the boy spoke again. You have a mom and dad. You're so lucky, the boy said. Isabel nodded, glancing at her parents. You can talk to them, hug them, and spend time with them, the boy continued. No, I hardly see them. When I wake up, the maid gets me ready and makes breakfast, Isabel replied. Why? The boy asked, confused. Isabel explained, because both my mom and dad work. They come home late, and by then I'm asleep. I only see them on Sundays, but they mostly sleep. Oh, are we the same then? The boy asked. Isabel shook her head. No, I see my parents on Sundays. You don't have any parents. The boy looked down, nodding sadly. Isabel pointed to her bruised knee. Yesterday I fell and hurt my knee. I cried all afternoon, and the maid just yelled at me. The boy gently touched her knee, making Isabel wince. He quickly pulled his hand back. At that moment, Marcus called Isabel, and she ran off. Ethan felt a sharp pain in his chest. The boy's words, "Are we the same?" echoed in his heart. His thoughts shifted to Lucy, who was at daycare. He felt suffocated as memories of his own orphanage days flooded back. Days filled with loneliness, scoldings, and sometimes beatings. He wiped his sweaty forehead with a handkerchief. He excused himself from Marcus and left the orphanage, leaving Marcus puzzled. Ethan drove to the daycare, desperate to see Lucy. He needed to hold her. 50 minutes later, he was in the daycare office, waiting for permission to enter. The plump lady at the desk handed him a card and said politely, "Just 10 minutes, Mr. Grant. Please don't let Lucy see you. It upsets the kids when they see their parents." Ethan nodded, though her words, "Don't let Lucy see you," made him feel even more suffocated. He rushed to the first-floor room and peered through the window. He spotted Lucy immediately. His 15-month-old daughter was awkwardly running toward a toy when she tripped and let out a painful cry. It pierced his heart. The attendant picked her up, brushed off her knees, and said, "You're fine. I told you not to run." She placed Lucy in a fenced children's bed and moved on to another child, leaving Lucy crying. Ethan couldn't take it any longer. He burst through the door, scooped Lucy into his arms, and kissed her repeatedly, calming her down. The attendant's protests didn't register with him. He checked Lucy's knees and was relieved to find no bruises. As the attendant kept insisting, Ethan lost his temper. He yelled at her before storming out with Lucy in his arms. Back in the daycare office, he shouted at the woman, "Is this how you care for my daughter? If she falls, you just toss her in a bed and leave her crying?" The woman tried to explain, but Ethan stormed out, holding Lucy close. On the drive home, Ethan felt restless. How could he and Rachel have been so selfish, leaving Lucy with strangers? He glanced at Lucy, seated in the front, nibbling on an orange biscuit. She noticed him looking and gave him a sweet smile. His heart pounded hard. Once home, Ethan canceled all his meetings, ignoring important calls. That evening, he made a decision and waited for Rachel to return. He had already told her he had picked up Lucy early. When Rachel walked in, she hugged him excitedly and kissed his cheek. "Ethan, I've been promoted. I'm the senior HR manager now. I can't believe it." "You need to quit your job, Rachel," Ethan said. "I want you to stay home with Lucy and be there for her." "I'm not letting our daughter grow up in daycares or with nannies," Ethan repeated. Still stunned, Rachel said, "Excuse me, what?" "I'm serious. I want you to quit your job and stay with Lucy," Ethan clarified. Rachel pulled away, confused. "Are you joking, Ethan? I'm not in the mood for this. Let's go celebrate. I'm the new HR manager." Ethan didn't move. Rachel looked at him, sensing something was wrong. "What's going on, Ethan?" Ethan told her everything about the orphanage and daycare. Rachel rubbed her forehead, frustrated. "Ethan, you're acting crazy. Lucy isn't an orphan. She has us. We're her family. How much time do we actually spend with her?" Ethan asked. "We spend time with her. She loves us. Her life is full," Rachel argued. "That's not enough, Rachel. She fell today and was left to cry." "Ethan, that was just bad timing. It's a top-rated daycare. They take good care of her," Rachel explained. "No, Lucy's not going back there. You need to quit," Ethan said firmly. Rachel's eyes narrowed. "Are you insecure, Ethan? Afraid I'll outshine you?" Ethan's tone softened. "Rachel, that's not it. I just want you to be there for Lucy. My salary is enough for us. We're fine." Rachel challenged him. "Then why don't you quit and stay with her? Dads can do that too." Ethan paused before picking up his phone. He looked at it, then at Lucy playing, and finally at Rachel. "Fine. I'll resign tomorrow. I'll work part-time from home. I want to be with Lucy." Rachel was speechless. "Ethan, we need both incomes to give Lucy a good life. I want her to have the best, to travel, attend great schools, wear designer clothes, and eat at fancy places." Ethan glanced at Lucy and spoke gently. "I want her to grow up in a loving environment, not just have things. I want to be there, to create memories, to teach her love before money. Our daughter has parents. She should feel that." Rachel couldn't believe what she was hearing. "What about your big dreams? Our world tour?" Ethan looked at Lucy and said, "My world is right here. I want to experience life's joys with her." He turned to Rachel, firm. "I've decided. I'm quitting." He picked Lucy up and walked away, leaving Rachel stunned. She called after him, "Is Lucy disabled or something? Why do you need to stay with her?" Ethan turned, his eyes cold. "Mind your words, Rachel. She's our daughter." Lucy stirred, and Ethan snapped out of his thoughts. Since that day, he had quit and worked part-time from home, spending every free moment with Lucy, cooking, studying, playing, and caring for her. He had endured many sarcastic remarks from friends and family, but nothing had broken his resolve. He and Rachel had fought many times since then. He always said he'd return to work if she quit, but she never did, and he didn't push her. "Daddy, why are you awake?" Lucy's sleepy voice broke through his thoughts. Ethan smiled and looked at his 4-year-old. "I missed you, sweetheart." Lucy smiled, patting the empty spot beside her. "Come sleep with me, Daddy. I'll put you to sleep." Ethan's eyes filled with tears as he lay next to her, feeling her tiny hand gently stroke his head. "Sleep, Daddy. I love you." Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of love surround them, pushing away doubts and societal pressures, and father and daughter slept peacefully.